warlock, weapons and supplies, but you need a place to track your stuff, cause you're so disorganized. You click open the web page, you heard about a critical role, and now you're ready to kick some butt in that mine shaft full of no's. It's D&D, D&D Beyond, yeah, D&D, D&D Beyond. You got your stats, you got your swords, and you got your invisible wall. It's D&D, D&D Beyond.
Hello, everyone. This is Todd Talks. I'm Todd Kenreck, the Perfect Warlock, and I am joined by two of the perfect WebDMs, Jonathan Pruitt, and of course Jim Davis, the Master, who we all bow before. If you don't know him, I have watched his videos so much it's disturbing. I constantly have Jonathan Pruitt and Jim Davis playing in the background all the time, learning what I can. So let's hop in. I'm watching you.
Always there.
Always. I bought an iPad just specifically to play your videos. It's really creepy.
You see my WebDM iPad?
Yeah, it's got like little stickers. I put a photo collage of Jim Davis and Jonathan Pruitt on it, like just the sticker montage. Yeah, right.
So, yeah, the background just alternates between all of our thumbnails from the past.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. Actually, that would be pretty great. You should, if you have a Patreon, provide that for your.
we've talked about doing like a coffee table book of our like thumbnails.
Oh my god! No, do it. Everyone will buy it.
Yeah, I think they would.
Yeah, it's such an absurd table book. That would be amazing. But we have things to
Perhaps
talk about.
Work. Yep.
I do. I love the thumbnails. The thumbnails. Your thumbnail game is on point. So we had Unearthed Arcana. It's
After
pretty
like
crazy.
3 months. Yeah.
It's been a long time since we had Unearthed Arcana, and they came out swinging.
They
So,
did.
what are your impressions of this new Unearthed Arcana? We have a new subclass for the Barbarian called Path of the Wild Soul, and then we have a new monk class which is called the Way of the Astral Self. So, initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts. I love that they're just like thinking of the craziest shit possible for these subclasses. But like quick capsule review. I'm not really wild about the Barbarian, ironically, and I love the Astral Self. It's maybe too OP when you really think about like the end game of that, but
right.
I don't know. I love the idea of a big anima spirit like surrounding you, and it's very. I mean, it's evocative of the source material. When you think of like what is it? How Once Upon a Time in the West or whatever it is, like the John Cho movie, where they have all these big crazy shit going on, big Buddha palms, and it reminds me of that. And I don't really understand what's going on with the Wild Soul, though. I don't know.
It is a flavor that is missing in D&D. Like it does have that little bit. Like if you want a little more high fantasy D&D game, I think it fits very well. And certainly, like if you want to reflavor it and kind of tone down the craziness of it, you could do that too. Like your hands are just moving so fast, you have extra hands. How about for you, Mr. Jim Davis?
Oh, I like the ideas that are here, and I like to see them experimenting. I don't have a problem with magic barbarians. Like the majority of barbarians in 5th edition are magic barbarians, and so like that's not my problem. The flavor of it's not. It's just like the two things aren't matching up to me. The mechanics that they've provided and the little paragraph of lore that we get. So I'm like, I'm not feeling this round of it, but I don't want it thrown out. Like, this is a good idea. I feel this way about sort of like the brute fighter. I feel like there was a class with the brute that could have been teased out and it worked out. It could have existed alongside the champion as just sort of a generic type fighter. It's sort of like this with the barbarian. There's something here. I don't want it thrown out, but I'm not feeling this round yet. And as for in terms of the Astral Self, I love it. I mean, love is maybe a strong word. I haven't played a 5th edition monk yet, so I'm not sure, like, how it would stack up against, say, the other ones. But I've seen a lot of monks played, and for me, I like the fact that it's It just seems fun. It seems interesting. It's got like it explores an area of the monk that we haven't really seen much of yet. It's got a lot of like I like the way that the abilities sort of build and progress on themselves, and just the whole flavor of like I'm aligning my various metaphysical selves with each other to become a more complete individual is just like a fun thing.
And I do like actually the flavor that is in there. I like quite a bit, especially how they're talking about this is your true self. Your astral self is your true self. Your physical form is not. I think that's very I think it's a very modern approach, and I think it's a very interesting approach. Like I love that, and I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. The idea that your physical self does not match up with your astral self at all.
Sure.
I mean, it's the next inevitable step after detachment of the physical body. I mean, you can bring forth the spiritual self and defend your physical body with your spiritual self. I mean, come on, who doesn't want that?
Well, it's a great question to ask. Like, not only do you have to think about what your character looks like, now you have to think about what your character looks like,
what their spirit self looks like. For real, though, yeah. But it's like this is the thing about the planes and kind of like the cosmology of D&D, and these two classes interacting with them are, I think, maybe significant. But it's like you're all like the planes of existence we think of as like other planets. Right, I open this magical gateway, and it's like a Marvel movie, and now I'm on the big green planet where this is happening, or I'm on the hot red planet, and this is happening. Like but like
dimension with Dormammu,
and if it's like if you think of it less that way, and you go back and say like read some of like early editions of D&D, astral projection is very much like your physical body's back home. You can only exist materially on the material plane. To exist in the astral plane, you have a spirit body that you construct for yourself. And like, I like that idea. I've been exploring it in my own just sort of homebrew stuff, like different ways to sort of take on the planes and conceive of them, and having them be purely spiritual realms or purely conceptual realms is really cool. And this is like the Horizon Walker, there's other kinds of, the various spells like astral projection and etherealness, they like let you access those other states of consciousness.
Yeah.
This monk just like pulls it into the material plane. It's like, all right, I'm here to clobber you with my enlightened wisdom.
I do love, I mean, of all the Rangers, I love the Horizon Walker the most. It's the most interesting to me. I've always loved Planeswalker characters. I think the abilities are very interesting. I also like just the hopping around the room. I love characters that just teleport like crazy. So being able to like play checkers with miniatures basically on the board is very interesting to me. I do like I do have to say I do like the Barbarian Wild Soul, and I do feel like there's some weird there's some maybe oddness, like the fact that first off, here's the description: Path of the Wild Soul. The realm of the Fae Wild abounds with beauty, unpredictable emotion, and rampant magic. A barbarian exposed to this realm feels emotions powerfully, which I don't know a lot of barbarians that don't, and magic saturates their body. When a barbarian who follows this path rages, it has a bellowing roar of freedom, an explosion of expression, and manifesting in unpredictable ways. And this kind of sets up this entire character, which I kind of see as more radioactive. Like, you've been exposed to the Fae Wild, and now you've got that Fae Wild energy. Like, you are a danger to yourself and others, like in that sense. Like,
oh, you're completely. Yeah, I mean, half of these abilities do damage to every creature in your vicinity, which is, I think, a very interesting. It's a very interesting change from previous subclasses where it's always like, it hurts enemies, but your allies, just don't worry about it, So it's interesting that this is a barbarian that maybe you want to just put over a one spot in the battlefield and be like, you do good, you're doing great over there, buddy. Just keep raging, just keep bringing forth that Fae magic. We'll be over here, we're good. I don't know. Never mind. I know what Jim's gonna say.
I certainly detect magic. Detect magic for me personally is a surprise.
Well, What do you feel about the fact that it's not a ritual like other barbarian subclasses that have access to magic?
That's an
Like
interesting
the
point.
totem barbarian. Like they can cast a couple spells.
Yeah, the totem barbarian has access to the rituals. I think it's because with totem, they're like engaged in an intentional act of magic. So like the totem barbarian, when they're trying to like speak with animals or commune with nature, they're like, all right, I learned this from my shaman and back at the tribe or on my vision quest when I connected with my totem. But I see like the wild soul, look at it. It doesn't use a spell slot or any components. That's not just material, verbal, somatic, etc. This thing just happens and then their skin changes color. And you can easily see this as like the barbarian has no idea that this is happening. It's not an intentional act. It's a side effect of their,
I think I would like that in the language a little bit more, that it actually happens. Like I would find that very interesting if it just like pops off at the DM's will.
Yeah, like I could even see the language going like it reacts to strong magical auras, period. Like if you have like legendary weapons around, then maybe your guy's always purple. Like I don't know.
Like Jim, you're glowing again.
Yeah. Everyone has to tell you that you're glowing. That becomes very fun and strange. And also, you may reveal your like position, right? Like, oh, there's the glowing barbarian we've been looking for this whole time.
But that could also be useful. Is barbarians glowing, but there's nothing here? Maybe there's an invisible enemy nearby, or are barbarians glowing and like. Why? Oh shit! Someone just got dominated, and you have just that split second to realize it. So it could be an interesting feature like that, and it like
that's very interesting.
Like Jim, it flashes in the whatever, I don't know.
Jim, you totally jumped in to the question I was just about to ask you, which is if your barbarian is around somebody who's invisible, what happens? Like do you?
Well, that's the question of can detect magic. Detect the presence of an invisible creature, if not the exact square that it's in.
And that is charming.
That's a DM ruling kind of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely a DM ruling thing. But I like the idea of the danger sense expanding into the magical realm. And you could play just a barbarian who is just like this, just has no intellect at all, but they're really the canary in the coal mine. Right?
Sure.
Like
the dividing rod.
Like, everyone watch. Everyone watch Uthric. Just real close, and he doesn't know what's going on.
He glows when he gets mad.
The thing that even that I want to just kind of touch on for a minute, even before lingering magic, was in that flavor text, which is like you're exposed to the Fae Wild. So barbarians get their class their subpath at like 3rd level. So you're now dealing with like a low-level character that's had a contact with a plane, and I don't know how much the flavor text is going to stay and how much it's connected to whatever the final form this thing takes. But that's kind of one of those things where I was like, maybe like some other options for it. Maybe it's like a planar influenced region, or this is sort of like a hereditary thing that sometimes expressed. I don't know. This was sort of a minor thing to me, but it stood out as what's first or second, 3rd level character doing in the Fae Wild. Not that I wouldn't throw someone in there, but like it's not usually presented as an option for,
maybe they have a fairy godmother,
It could be a fairy godmother, right? Like,
but I understand the point you're making is when you have something that in the lore is specifically tied to another place that a low-level character normally wouldn't go to, that's kind of you're having to put the onus on the player and the DM to come up with a reason that makes sense. Otherwise, you have a suspension of disbelief. Little bit, but
I would use this for Eldrin though, personally.
Totally.
I think it worked really cool with an Eldrin.
It does make me think of like places that do radiate magic. Like if you think about Empire Strikes Back, that place being strong with the dark side. Like if someone gets exposed, when I initially read it, just the title "Path of the Wild Soul," I assumed it was a barbarian who became victim of a wild mage sorcerer somehow, and that magic had somehow transferred to them, and now they're radioactive.
I can definitely see that. Or they're.
I'm all for a Fae Wild barbarian, absolutely. I do quite like the wild surge for it. Actually, it's so random and chaotic.
So here's what I want to. When did the Fae Wild shift from like just like an alternate version of fairy or the Beastlands to like this place of chaos magic? Like that's where I'm the hiccups coming for me, because when I see it, I see like there's not as many nature effects as I was thinking there would be. I was kind of thinking this is almost like an uncontrollable druid, and you'd get like bark skin maybe, or thorns all over your body. And when I started seeing like necrotic and shadow, I was like, that doesn't seem Fae Wild to me.
That's true.
Which is why the flavor. That's why I said like the flavor and the mechanics didn't quite fit. But I don't know. I'm happy to talk about just mechanics, because there's some stuff on here that could easily be like its own class feature and built like an entire barbarian around, say, you were so burning with holy radiant light. It's like a different kind of zealot, that you burn people, or it leaks out of wounds that you suffer or something. The more you get damaged, the more rays of light shoot out of you. Or one where like plant life, sort of grows and becomes more difficult terrain. I was expecting to see things like that. You're liking the very random stuff of it, though, yeah? Just like the fact
I am liking the random
place.
stuff of it, but you're right. Like it doesn't necessarily sync with the Fae Wild in that regard. Because again, I walked into it thinking wild sorcery the whole time, and for that it makes complete sense. Like the arcane rebuke, even giving someone a spell slot, that all makes sense if this was originally like a wild, purely a wild magic.
Although wild magic sorcerers mention they in their fluff text, they've got like mentions of the Fae Wild as well, so it's not exactly it's not like there's no connection. It's just not the one I was thinking of.
There's like definitely things that like I have questions about, but I would say that this is, if I was to play a barbarian, this would be the barbarian. And because instantly when I think about this, I think of the radioactive barbarian who doesn't really have control about their life experiences. Like I think about I don't know if anyone saw King Arthur Legend of the Sword, which is like a perfectly legit decent film. You should watch it. But
I have not yet. No.
there is a moment where they like make him go into like the shadow realms, and they kind of expose him to poison, and he starts hallucinating, and he sees like drads crawling out of trees and all this other stuff. I imagine that this barbarian is always having a trip. Like when they rage, like they are seeing things. They're like, I don't know. I don't know why necrotic energy is coming on me right now.
Go on a journey.
Why is this? Sure, you could even be like, they had a potent dream and like brought something back with them, and it just kind of like lives subconsciously within them. I like the idea of unconscious magic. Like this is a weird tangent, guys, but like hear me out. All magic in a D&D world comes from a non-magical source, right? At some point, there's no magic, and then there's magic. The hand gestures, the words, the material components, the focus. At some point, all of that comes together to create a magical effect. So why does that need to be intentional? Could there not be arrangements of natural processes that happen to produce magical effects like this? And I think this is just, I'm thinking it maybe more along the lines, Todd, in the way you were. It's just like, they're not necessarily connected to a plane. This is just someone who's had something very bad magically happen to them.
Right.
And now they can kind of draw strength from it. And it makes them tough, but also you don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time around it.
And really, this is like the extroverted Hulk. Really, I mean, you look. I mean, I do have to say, I do like the plant life temporarily growing around you, even though it's like, it's like you could just follow the path of the barbarian, literally, because you just follow.
You don't need to find the path; just follow it.
Yeah, you just follow them. Let's see. So it's like I just do have some questions about some of them, and I don't necessarily want to go through all 8, but like the necrotic energy burst is the one where it's like, how many people can you get within 30 feet? Like, I'm sure someone's figured this out, but that's how many D10s worth of temporary HPs at 3rd level? Like, that's a lot.
I mean, 30 feet, that's 13 by 13 squares around you.
Sure. I'll let the math guys out there do it. But then at the same time, by the time you're like at the end of your levels, D10, that might not be anything for, say, a 20th level barbarian. Tier 4. So I think like the biggest thing with all 8 of these is like just poor scaling, and I don't know, like the plant life temporarily becoming difficult terrain. Are you immune to that, or are you also trapped in this difficult terrain? And then like once you can start rolling on the wild search table every round is when it's, to me, it's like all those harm your party effects become like, well, once of combat's fine, just don't stand near them. But if we could have exploding flumps anytime,
And that's really the one that's the biggest problem for me. It's just the random exploding flumps. I'm just like,
the flumps are very weird for me, only because they're an aberration. Because again, you're right. This is not of the Fae Wild. Necrotic energy typically is not of the Fae Wild. I could see like an excuse for like the Midnight Sealy Court or the Unsealy Court or something like that. This happening.
That's placed
the flumps are very specifically aberrations. So again, this feels like an origin somewhat founded in wild
could
magic
be like
itself.
Like the path of the far soul, and you're becoming a portal to the far realm, and this is the 20th level. You're gonna hand over your character sheet. You've now become Cthulhu.
I was gonna go back to
final insult to like wizards, right? Like the sorcerer is magic, but this guy literally has done nothing to get magic.
He gets angry and gets magical.
Continually,
to go back to what Jim said earlier about this being more of the planes as a whole, like this also kind of really lends to like a more cosmic barbarian that is meant to travel. So once again, I'm going to go back to Spelljammer. No, I'm just kidding.
I can see Spelljammer. I can see Dark Sun in that. Path of the Wild Soul could easily be what happens when a defiler, does something terrible to him. I could even see Astral Self fitting with Dark Sun in some way, and that psionics are really, it's one step removed from a psionic class. I could even see Spelljammer as this being just like pure idle speculation. I saw somewhere online a bunch of people were like, "Oh, this is for Eberron." I don't see either of these as particularly Eberron.
I mean, certainly the ways. Wait, what's the name of the? Why am I forgetting?
The Mornland.
The Mordenlands, I can see a barbarian coming out of that like this.
Yeah. I can see like a lone survivor, just like no one survived except this one person. It's just like
he just found this guy. Out there. Yeah. That'd be interesting.
So then, so that was this Wild Search table. You like Arcane Rebuke? Because that's the next one.
Arcane Rebuke is,
or Magic Reserves is the next one.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't really. It's not like there's nothing in that text that like. I don't. It's odd to me. Maybe perhaps it's a little odd. I mean, it's not like a bad thing to have, right? Like it's kind of like a hellish rebuke for, for having to do a saving throw. I think it'd be more interesting if it's hand built into chaos.
Yeah. I think to me, it's like is it any saving throw or is it only spells? I think it's more like clarification stuff.
It just says whenever a creature forces you to make a saving throw while you are raging.
So to me, it's like. To me that's like, okay, so like a snake bites me and I have to make a saving throw for the poison. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about? Like, I'm trying to match up I'm trying to match up the flavor with the mechanics is what I'm getting at. And for me, I could see it being like, it has to be a spell or it has to be a magic effect.
Or I can see like why this is like, okay, you're causing something that is radiating magic to react in some way. Like you're causing it, constraining it in some way. You're causing it to do a saving throw or make extra effort, and therefore you are going to have to pay for that. And so I get that.
Definitely.
I get the idea.
There should be some magic at the source of whatever's causing the saving throw. Otherwise, what are you rebuking? So
sure. Yeah, that's snake. What were you were going to say something for it? You were going to say something before?
No, don't worry about it. I was going to go back to Magic Reserves, but we already moved on.
Oh, I skipped past it. I skipped past it because I think to me Magic Reserves is the one where I would be like, man, my first level cleric can just like heal up all day long because that just give me a slot back. All right, I'll heal up whatever damage you take. Like it's sort of like that. If there's healing spirit and you haven't like dealt with healing spirit, you haven't like found a way to make it work for your table, then like healing spirit and Magic Reserves is going to be nuts. Because I also am like,
it does make I do like the concept, and this is something I always like. I was even trying to design my own game system a long time ago where like everyone's abilities could match up. Like every class could benefit another class, very specifically another class.
Yeah, I love it.
And this is clearly that concept, and I think I would love to see more of it actually.
I want to see it further.
But you're right,
developed.
healing spirit's a nightmare. So
Yeah,
Well-
healing spirit is, and go ahead, bro.
I was just gonna say, Magic Reserves only works if you put a cap on it. If you put a once per short rest, or
Sure.
yeah,
I mean, like
Link
that's
it to
how
their
you.
constitution.
You can do a number of times a day to Constitution mod. Even that's a little ridiculous. Because you're talking about a possibility of getting back like, 4 fourth level slots in a day. Possibly.
Like, what does it
You know.
mean for warlocks, right? What does it mean
Yeah.
for warlocks if they give mags like, sorry, I don't have any second levels anymore.
yeah.
It's like I think
That's a
it's
good point. Yeah, you just don't have. I don't have second levels. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just
It's
say
not part of my.
Yeah, maybe
Some
only
part of
if what you roll is up to what they have. If you roll
or
a
it gives
1,
them
it's
a
like,
long
all right, well, you
rest
get a first level slot back.
Yeah,
Does
something.
punish the warlock a bit though, but still, yeah. It is again interesting because I get narratively where this is coming from. Magic Reserves, you are using the barbarian in your party as a source of energy.
Battering.
And again,
I think that's cool.
they may not be that aware of it, right? Like you're keeping this barbarian around because he magically glows when bad things are around. Like you can suck some energy out of him and get a couple extra spell slots. Like, you become like
combat.
yeah, this is the first time where like maybe all the sorcerers and all the spellcasters like the barbarian, but for all the wrong reasons.
So for all the wrong reasons, to me, this is one of those ones where I'm like, all right, okay, they've got to touch you. So yeah. I want to tweak this so that it's a passive ability for the barbarian and instead unlocks other options for the caster. Right, like the barbarian has this power that maybe gives them a passive something, maybe magic resistance.
Okay,
as long as they've got charges left, right? But other casters in the party can say, "Come up and touch the barbarian and get a slot back." The barbarian doesn't do anything other than be there to have that. Or maybe it's like
everyone just like rubs your head or your belly and they get a spell slot. Yeah.
Or it's like I target the barbarian. I'm shooting a lightning bolt, and I want to make sure that the first person it hits is the barbarian because it's going to pass through that magic field, and then I'll alter that spell somehow, and then everything beyond it, barbarian's going to be fine. The magic field's going to protect them, and it's going to change the spell for everyone else. Like that's the kind of thing I want to see with this class. Is like I can't accidentally become a demon and have an aberration rip from my skin for a minute and then barf me back up when 10 minutes is up, or I can't say have a fairy take control of me for a few minutes. There's nothing dangerous about this class.
Okay.
And I want there to be something dangerous about it. This is a barbarian, right? Like you shouldn't want to be close to this person. D10 damage, Pruitt.
Well, I understand that. Well, now I'm talking about the other abilities that also do damage to everyone,
Sure,
like the flump ability.
Sure, the flump ability, 2d8. That's not going to sneeze at.
The beam of light that lances out and does 2d8, because that's everyone. I mean, 3 or 4 of the abilities damage everyone or do something to everyone. It's not nothing, but and it might be something, when it's your sorcerer who's has no slots left and is trying to move up in combat. But
this
they've
guy's
already
be in melee, so you got to get up in melee too. We're close to melee.
Got to get up in melee, get that slot back. But then he's already 14th level, so it's a new round, and boom, his burst goes off and kills you.
I would say this. That's a legit thing, and if it's scaled, then it would be a legit sort of risk reward kind of thing. But consider this: most people's criticisms of Frenzied Berserker in 3rd edition were that this was a character that was too dangerous to the party, and players will shy away from classes that are too dangerous for their party members. And so I would rather place there's a danger to the party, but the other party members get to determine when they engage with that danger, as opposed to when this player uses their standard class feature of raging, we could all take a bunch of damage. There's crazy shit going on around him. It's altering spells and magic, right? That's what I would love to see. And then and then it's the casters who, when they get too close or target the barbarian with a spell, have to deal with the risk, as opposed to just
What if that magic reserve, instead of giving spell slots back, what if it gave you some kind of meta magic? Like,
I mean,
what if it was an aura?
I can definitely see
What if
this,
it was
yeah.
an aura that forces you to try to be within 30 feet of them because it gives you like a meta magic thing certain amount of times a day? But of
Yeah.
course,
You don't know
it
which
could
one you're
pop
going
off
to get.
and yeah, you don't know what you're going to get though. You know,
Yeah.
is it going to be twin spell? Is it going to be quicken spell? Is it going to be maximize? You know,
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I would do it. Yeah, and then also the possibility that you Hulk out and become a demon.
Yeah. No, totally.
But you know, or like if you wanted to keep I've been so suffused from the Fae Wild, I personally would go with shape-shifting rages. And like you just take on various monster aspects of Fae Wild monsters like owlbear beak or you know, treant arms or something like that. Or usually that kind of thing, shape-shifting is usually reserved for rangers and druids, but come on, barbarian like screams for like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You know, I turn into one
Hulk out
thing.
kind of moment.
You know, I become one thing when I rage. Werewolf. And werewolf in the Feywild. Come on, lycanthropes in the Feywild go great together.
Yeah,
So.
I always want to turn into a werebat.
Oh yeah.
I don't know
Come on.
if a raging werebat makes a ton of sense, but
Let Todd
a
play a
mosquito
raging
with
werebat whose echolocation can liquefy us all.
He kills you just by finding you.
That's fine.
That brings us. I think what I like is there's a lot of risk in this barbarian in both these subclasses, and that excites me. I think something very, very cool is going to come out of that. Let's take a look at the new. Oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, I was going to say as a final point, like Jim and I were talking about this a while back, and we were discussing like changes and dealing like with actual like emotions, and like having different like you can instill like a fury in the people around you, like the enemies, so they attack with disadvantage because they're not focused and things like that. But one of the things that we discussed that I think is a really cool idea is that something like this, where it's all about emotion and your connection with it, if you end your rage early on purpose, it was a thing where everyone around you had to make a save, or like literally like casting calm emotions. Like you let out a burst of just like calming energy as you let this rage go, and it disperses all the rage in the area. And I think that would be something like that would be really cool for a barbarian. Because it seems antithetical.
I forgot about that conversation, but I liked it because to me, I did get hooked on that like uncontrollable emotion, the feeling of like, what if this barbarian, everyone just got caught up in it. And like I'm a dagger wielding sorcerer over here. I got too close to the barbarian, and now all of a sudden I'm getting stuck in melee, you know, or something like that. But it'd be a bit. I was thinking in this case it would be everyone, to be enemies, allies. Like this guy just wants everyone to fight, or calm down. This is the example Pruitt gave. But yeah, I can see that.
This sounds like pure chaos.
Yes.
It's an excellent like single player barbarian and adventure as well. Like when you really don't have to worry about being near everybody else. Let's talk about the monist. Now moving in a completely different direction of complete control and harmony. The monk tradition of Way of the Astral Self. This is super interesting. Monks of the Way of the Astral Self have an internal struggle with their key, which is, I don't know if I feel like, well, yeah. So the mystical energy as a wait, I think I'm reading this out of form. So the mystical energy as a representation of their true form or astral self. This form has, I am completely reading this thing.
Oh, you're reading it all chopped up?
Yeah, I'm reading it all chopped up. I'm clearly reading this all chopped up. Yeah. So, well, anyways, let's, tell me about how you feel about what the Way of the Astral Self is and how you feel about it.
Well, I mean, you know, most people, they can say that they talk the talk, but they can't really walk the walk. Here's the thing about the astral self. They literally take the talk out of themselves and let that do the walking for them. I don't know. I love the idea that this is like the self-perception of one's true nature can be made manifest, so you can show something that no one ever really gets to ever see. And that's like the whole point of the Way of the Astral Self is like if they use that astral self to do to do bad and do evil. Like that's what I love about the conflict that they're talking about. Like it's a thing that they can use, not necessarily for good or for evil. It's just how you use it. So therefore, if you misuse your astral self, then you truly are evil. And there's no way around that. It's not just an accident. You weren't defending yourself. Like,
that's interesting.
like I love that you're literally putting your entire self on the line every time you choose to use this thing. And so I love that aspect of it.
Oh my, yeah, that's very interesting. Like if you kill in your astral form, does that affect you?
I mean,
like you just killed somebody with your soul.
To me, it would, right? Like that would stain. It literally stains your soul with their blood.
Sure.
That's
you're
intense.
dealing with that's like it's not just your flesh and blood anymore. You're talking about eternal, immortal things that the monks dealing with here. And this is what I love about D&D monks, and it took me a while to come around on them conceptually, but like they interact with the magic of a setting in a way that's completely different than spellcasters. And you'll hear Jeremy Crawford and all the rest of the D&D development team talk about all the time the background magic of D&D, and that's what I take that to mean is like that's from everywhere. We're talking like subatomic particles, there's magic there. You're talking about universes, there's magic there. Like everywhere you go in this world, in this place, there's magic, and it's not necessarily a foreign thing. And so like the monk just attunes themselves to that and is in harmony with that. And to me, the astral self is the best expression of that. Where if the way of the open hand or open fist is about physical perfection and becoming like the most perfect being, then this is the spiritual version of that. I want to take an open hand, Cobalt Soul, and Astral Self and kind of like mash them together. Because previously, like Cobalt Soul is one of my favorite ones. That's from the Tal'Darai setting, if you didn't know.
Right.
But the Astral Self now, I might have to.
That's again, this is like, ooh, it'd be tough for me not to play this monk. Like if I'm gonna go monk, it's because again, it has so much flavor because you can kind of get your head like, okay, like I'm the shadow monk, the way of the shadow, and sometimes you can get locked into a very particular concept. Like maybe you just think of yourself as a ninja. You don't have to be that way. You define what your character is and why they do things. But this one forces you to think way outside the box. Immediately, like you need to come up with a reason why this is happening and why you can do this.
And similar to like the Wild Soul Barbarian, why you're able to do this at such a low level. Like what is it that was about your character that allows them to access this? Otherwise, this is reserved for traveling to and from the outer planes and cemetery for dead gods and home to all kinds of monsters and astral dreadnoughts. No joke.
Gets
the
hurricanes of the astral realms.
Right. And so like it does speak to a more higher magic world. It's very anime flavored. I haven't seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I take it.
I've never seen that
but
made
the first
more
thing
than
was like, than the last few.
I'm gonna watch it now because clearly I'm missing out on something.
I'm straight
when I see that many people saying JoJo.
But
I immediately
my first thought was more anime. Exalted was what
I first thought of Exalted, and the whole like I don't know Todd if you ever played it, but like the whole idea of the anima banner. The more power you use, you have an anima banner that kind of surrounds you, whatever that is. Whether it's if it could be a still image or it could be a moving image, but it is the epitome of how you see your actions in the world. I had a character named Seventh Coil around the mountain, and whenever she did stuff, like a giant snake would coil around her as she was doing things. And it's just kind of like it's a flavor text kind of thing where it's something that everyone can see on the battlefield and go, holy shit, that's so-and-so. But it doesn't really do anything. Whereas this takes that and they're like, no, that's the thing that's doing everything. Like you get reach. I mean, like it's ridiculous. I want a duo of one of these guys, an Astral Soul and a Sun Soul monk. And you got freaking arms and you got blasters. And that would be a crazy fun anime event.
Cosmic monk
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. You're like that. Even with like a very very far away shot of a massive battle, you're like, oh, there's the way the Astral Self Monk
There they are.
over there in the dark
20
corner.
foot tall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like building on some of that right there, and before we get into the features themselves, but like the Exalted have this anima banner because part of their soul is eternal, and was like there's only 100 of them, and they were scattered and defeated and overthrown and imprisoned, etc. And now they're being reborn into the world, like taking that idea of there being something eternal to your spirit self. Like, does your astral self have all of your your reincarnation, your incarnations rather, right? Like, are you looking at every time this soul has been incarnated into a body, and these are all of the individuals who are connected to you and you to them, etc. And it's almost like an Akashic type thing where I could see this almost. My one complaint about the class is it's too combat focused, and there could be another ability to go alongside Visage as like a non-combat thing, and it might be like maybe just get a floating skill proficiency that you can change on a short or a long rest, and like you dream of an ancestor or something, and are able to wake up the next day and have their skill in something. That I'd like something like that. I could see being really cool to reflect that eternalness.
I'm impressed with the flavor text for the form of your astral self. They let you look like anything. Yeah. This is very exciting to me. The more they do this kind of thing, like even when they mention sorcerers, they mention like your magic can manifest in all kinds of ways. Like, your hair may like stand up straight when you cast a spell, or electricity kind of glows in your eyes. That's what I like about the flavor text when it comes to what they've done with the sorcerers. This is a whole bunch of flavor texts because they're saying you can basically do anything. Whoever you are inside can look like a Modron. I can imagine, like, if you want to play a tentacle monk, this is tentacle monk.
This is the tentacle monk. Yeah. This is the manifest.
Really into that. Go for it.
I have some players who be into that.
I have to ask, what if you had astral hands? What would they be?
They'd be big bees.
Big bees.
My astral hands would be big bees. They'd be giant. They'd be like cartoon, like giant-sized slap hands for my astral. Even if it's too cartoony, I like the idea of over large hands.
That would explain the 10-foot reach. Yeah. For you, Pruitt.
I don't know. I would maybe end up looking like some kind of Goro kind of thing, where it's like not over my arms, but literally over my arms. So I still have my arms here, doing whatever. I would eventually start trying to argue that I could do something with my arms, and my astral arms are attacking. Like, I could hold this, right?
I mean, you can even you can even flavor this, like, this the idea of, like, when you see the original Matrix movie, when you see the agents move and you see Neo move at the end, you see multiple hands because of theoretically the speed, but also maybe not. Maybe that's this is a shout out to the astral self. I'm gonna go the opposite direction with Jim Davis. My hands are gonna be tiny hands. So
little tiny hands.
10-foot reach. Just slap. That's it. I broke you. I saw these in my workroom, and I'm like, oh, I'm totally bringing these out for this conversation.
Damn it! I need to go ahead and buy some.
Yeah. Everyone who wants to play this class now. Yeah, the same. No one wants to die from tiny hands.
Mm-hmm. You get advantage on pilfering and sleight of hand, sleight of hands.
That's a great alternate spell. Like Eberron's tiny mage hand. He can only move a quarter.
He can only move a foot around, but damn it.
Yeah, but super effective. Like, you can stick the tiny you can mess with someone's eardrum, like flick their eardrum or something like that. Mm-hmm. All right, I've completely derailed this. I am very sorry. So this is incredibly powerful arms of the astral self. You do to get your wisdom modifiers on this. It's a little bit less mad. You have like a 10-foot reach. You've got radiant or necrotic damage. No.
My tiny hands.
Jim Davis.
That's
You
Some
seem to be
Dr. Strange
concentrating
right
way
there.
too much. You were looking down and building something horrifying.
I knew. I was trying to keep everything going.
Just I gotta get more of the tiny ones.
Oh, I didn't know there were tiny hands. I need to get.
Ones. They also
See,
come
we can
in
just go
rock paper,
full
scissors.
Doctor Strange. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What if each finger turned into a foot, and that would be your 10-foot reach? I'm sorry. That was
That's a good
that was
call.
terrible.
Yeah,
That was terrible.
That's a good one.
That was
I would
terrible.
ask you to leave the table.
I
I'm like, no, you're not respecting the narrative. Yeah,
Good one.
yeah. You've this Ravenloft campaign no longer feels right. Yeah.
Right. So the last thing I want to say about the flavor of this, and I love the flavor of the mug, but it's basically like just Doctor Strange. The Beyond the Tiny Hands. It's the the training to like do all of the astral sort of like soul magic that they can do. Man, I wish they could knock someone's soul out of their body, but that could be what stun is. Never mind.
Yeah.
Now I'm just
No.
rambling.
That's totally what an astral. Yeah, no, Jim. I'm playing one of these, and that's totally what it's going to look like. You see their soul standing there as their body's starting to fall down, and then when they make that save, they snap back in like.
Yeah, snaps back. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Our arms have been chosen. Tiny hands,
Your arms have
big
been-
hands.
Mhm.
I feel inventive yet not very inventive. Like like just varying size of hands have been chosen. Yeah, this is crazy powerful. I mean, like radiant or necrotic damage, you get to make this choice. This is all player focused. Like this is
Mhm.
we want you to tell a story. I love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Use your
on
wisdom.
top of that, the fact that you use your wisdom, now you can become an almost single stat. I mean, you
Right.
still need it for your AC. You still need dex for your AC and other stuff, but at least just for attacks and stuff, for once you have a monk that only needs one stat technically.
Right.
Then that's pretty freaking powerful right there. But the last one in the Arms of the Astral Self is the one that, especially as it scales, considering how
Yes.
little scaling there is in the Barbarian one, this one, it's just like, I look at this one and the later abilities, and I'm just like, you eventually have a monk that is just doing a sick amount of attacking, and
Mhm.
and are the perfect complement to any party to be the stun machine. You literally
Right.
spend all your key to
6
stun
Yeah.
and have
6
everyone else
attacks.
clean up. 6 attacks at a
6
10-foot
attacks,
range,
17 foot.
doing radiant or necrotic damage, and
Right.
you're using your wisdom if you have a really high wisdom, and everything within 10 feet. And I realize I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, but like,
No.
it's ridiculous.
That's how Pruitt does
Like,
it, though.
Yeah, I can't help myself.
So how much key does that cost? Because it's 10 to do complete, and then 2 to activate, and it's
Which-
all using your bonus action is the other big killer.
Mhm.
But it's I think the fact that everything in this build seems to use your bonus action is what keeps it from being like crazy, because it's like, all right, I got a bonus action to activate arms, but then in order to
Right.
get the feature that lets me make the extra attack, I gotta use the bonus action there. Only other situation I can think of for that is like dual wielding rangers with Hunter's Mark, that they have a boost and then can't use the boost to damage on the same round. But I mean, if they
But at
might be another
least-
one, I'm forgetting.
But at least with the 10 minutes, I mean, it's one of those things,
10 minutes,
unless
yeah.
it's like a surprise combat, you know it's coming. You go ahead and get it ready.
Most of the
And
time,
Yeah, 10 minutes is a long time for that to be
Yeah.
Most of the time.
activated.
It's just sort of like, it's one of those things where you know that you're going to be cursing the bonus action. 6 sessions in, when you're arguing with your DM that a bonus action is really like this and I should have another one, it's just that's the
Mhm.
balancing factor, I think, for this class. But otherwise, I
Yeah.
like arms. It's got everything you'd want out of an ability. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's super versatile. Visage of the Astral Self. This allows you to basically create a visage over you gain like advantage on wisdom, insight, charisma checks on for its intimidation. That makes total sense. I also like the idea of a monk just like shifting form to kind of like either kind of have their Galadriel form,
Yeah,
or their
yeah.
creepy Galadriel form, right, to make a point. Like, that's
This
again
is
you
my
really
parent
using
race.
like how otherworldly you are to get what you want is very interesting.
Yeah, almost as if looking at a person's soul is a terrifying thing. Like there's nothing
Right.
there's nothing like scary about it like there is, say, like a vampire or a big dragon, but just like you're looking at something so beyond, so eternal and of a different nature that it's just scary. Just
And that's like a
unnerving.
role-playing point.
Mhm.
Yeah, once you do that, like, okay, sure, yeah, you get an advantage on intimidation, but honestly, who are that NPC is, and quite possibly people in your party may never look at you the same way again.
Sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you've ever read any of the Dresden Files, they have an ability where you
Right.
can kind of, the wizards there can sort of see a person's true self, and it's that once you see it, that's all they'll ever see. So it could be something like this, where it's like your true self is so much more potent than this ever-changing physical body that you're in, with its hair and skin and all that.
Right.
Is just makes less of an impression. I could definitely see playing it like that. Astral Sight, you see basically Devil's Sight.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it included Invisible, just to make it a little different, but
Strong. But yeah. I
it's
see
strong.
what you're saying. But now we got more magical darkness seers. Well,
Oh yes.
yep, both magical.
Hey,
yeah.
at least starting at 6th level, that warlock can have a friend alongside.
Yeah, finally.
So long as I guess what a shadow sorcerer could join them if it was a darkness cast.
Yeah,
by
so
them.
this gets real tight. This is the shadow team, right? Like you got the shadow monk. Can they see the magical? They can see the magical darkness. They can't.
They're seeing their
okay,
own.
so
No, they can't. No, I don't
no.
think they can.
Okay, so you at least got now you have 3 party members.
Yeah.
That can all see, because I don't think Gloomstalker can. In magical darkness.
No, not
Yeah,
magical
so you
darkness.
got
They just get
That's
a
terrifying.
bonus on their distance.
someone
Yeah.
just like cast darkness, concentration. Shadow Sorcerer sends his hound in there as well. Now you've got the Astral Self guy tearing people apart, and then
Yeah,
you've
the
got
Astral-
Warlock as well. It's
The
just
Astral Self guy's standing right outside the darkness, just punching into it. Like
you can
hitting it.
now you can
something.
effectively have a 3-person party where basically no one's ever seeing what the party is doing. Like just darkness is moving around Faerun, killing things.
Mhm. And they don't suffer disadvantage in regular darkness. So there you go.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good plot for some villains. Like everybody's scared. The darkness is coming upon us.
Yeah.
There's a globe of darkness that comes into town and robs people, and nobody ever sees it.
Beats them up.
Yeah.
These 3 assholes.
Something I
It's
never
upsetting. I like if they're just doing petty stuff. They're not killing anyone. They're just taking like everyone's
lunch
croissants.
money.
Like, yeah.
Doors
So
unlocked.
awakening the astral self. You can deflect energy. You have empowered arms. Word of the spirit. Wow on all of this. I think this is all super impressive and on theme.
This sort of like, I love seeing abilities that build on each other, and to me there's nothing more like just sort of uninspiring than what seems to be like a random collection of class abilities. Like a class is supposed to be like this archetype, strong and immediately conjures something to mind and like reinforces it with the mechanics. And I think this is really well done in that sense. I think you get a little bit of, you just keep building on everything.
Well, I mean, it also, it's a nice array in that one level where you get a little damage, you get a little defense, and then you get a nice little utility power, like whatever it is. And so that's a lot of times, that's not really the case. It's always just straight combat. And I don't know. The word of the spirit. I love the idea of whispering to someone in the middle of a great cacophony of a battle, and you make you make eye contact. And it's like, I'm killing you next, and only the person you talk to heard it.
And then also, with word of spirit again, you can amplify your voice so that all the creatures within 600 feet can hear you.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
That's really cool.
That gets into some crazy stuff that you can do with the DM. I mean, this is 11th level, but like, can you now roll an intimidation check against everyone within 600 feet?
Right, with advantage.
That becomes fun. Exactly. With advantage, because everyone's going to turn and look at who the loud yeller is. If you're up on
speaking in their true self voice.
like you make Gandalf seem like tame. Like I imagine like everything darkens around you, and you're like, if you're like up on a cliff and there's an army a battle happening, you get to like intimidate an entire army for a second. That could be really, really interesting.
That could be really
and abusive. But yeah, it's good for the story. Empowered arms is really great. Deflect energy again is, you got a little bit of Darth Vader energy happening. Sure. Just like
knock it back, right? Like with deflected arrows, you just
no, it's not deflecting it back, but it's like but Darth Vader only absorbed energy with his hands. He didn't like fling it back at people. Lightsaber,
sure. It's not like you're a Tarrasque or anything like that. Come on.
And Way of the Tarrasque is the new monk.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Where strength is your only.
Yeah.
I have one stat. Death. But still, that's a lot right there.
That is a lot. It's a complete Astral Self. That's such a. I think this is a great keystone final form. You got all the toys running. Kind of ability, right?
I mean, it's gonna take more than half your ki the first time when you can actually cast it.
Right. And
even when you're 20th level, it's half your ki straight up. Like I love an investment like that because it returns so well.
Right. It's all of the key expenditures here seem to be good returns. Complete Self is really one of those get it up there as fast as possible and start using that reaction to get those points back. And chances are by 17th level, you've probably got a +5 in your wisdom, if not more. So it's like what, 2 rounds later, you're back to having, and
you're not spending any ki for Flurry of Blows. You're getting at this point, you're getting basically 6 attacks a round. And you're like, I'm sorry, but like I said earlier, I would only use points for stun. I would just like you are your party's own personal Thermopylae. Like put them in a corridor and just 10-foot reach, just everybody's dropping. And then when somebody dies that round, I'm going to take that 5 ki back. Next round,
that is so much scarier to me too. And I love non-combat combat. Like no, I'm just gonna go in there and I'm gonna knock you all out. Like that's I'm the knockout man. You just walk in and you're like stunning everybody. I mean, you get this a decent +2 to armor class. You now get another attack, and you attack 3 times instead of twice. And then this ki consumption is just oof.
Yeah.
When a character within 10 feet of you is reduced to 0 hit points, you can use your reaction to regain ki points equal to your wisdom modifier. This is a very good end game.
This is a capstone.
Let's just fight some demons. Yeah. Let's mix it up and just like murder this army of demons in the middle of the blood war. See what happens.
Right. My first thought when I read this was the Bag of Rats trick is back. And I would probably put some kind of thing on. These have to be like the creatures that reach 0, like there has to be some kind of qualification for them. So you don't just like throw out a bunch of 1 hit point nothings and use them as your fodder for regaining hit points. But it's any creature, allies, summoned creatures, enemies, anyone within 10 feet of you drops, you can use your reaction. So I think the only thing I would do is just like, you can't, at 17th level, you can't carry around a bag of critters to kill to get your ki back. That seems like, at the very least, against the spirit.
well, Jim, like the color, like the flavor text says, it's what you do with it. So if I would say if you want to do that with your soul, if that's what you want to do with your soul,
what are you going to do with the 17th level rat killer? What does your soul look?
Well, I mean, what happens when you start stacking it with everyone else who gets an advantage, like health or hit points or whatever when they kill? So you got like the warlock pact of the fiend, and then you got necromancer.
Yeah,
everyone's getting lots of benefits from just being murder hobos. There's let's juice up real quick and kill a whole bunch of rats or or whatever you want to do.
I do like that it's not. You don't have to be the one to strike the attack that drops them to 0, because I find those
and that allows the stun thing to be in effect, right? Yeah, that's actually super powerful, and that is, I think, good for a keystone ability, because you're right. Yeah, no one else gets that. You don't just like maybe the X-Blade does if because your hex is on somebody else that dies. You don't have to be the one to kill them.
Yeah, but usually, like I found, say for instance, my fiend pack, I never got to use the Dark One's Blessing, where you get tip HP when you kill someone.
Oh, when you drop someone, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, initiative orders being what they are, soften them up. I was there, but somebody else got the killing blow.
All right, we are at
you don't mind the kill stealers, yeah.
God, yes.
We are kind of in the bonus round because we are past 1 o'clock, but we do have some questions. I just want to like jump in real quick. So maybe we can answer them super fast. Let's see. What do you think about Wild Soul Astral Self multi-class Astral Arms along with Light and Throne properties? I think that's madness. Like, I have no. I don't think any of us have an answer to that. I think at some point you start being able to have visibility because things are moving too fast. Yeah. So the other question is, as far as Unearthed Arcana is concerned, is there any hope that there would be a revised Ranger? We don't know that. The next question is, can you guys adapt this one to Dune? Brainstorm? We don't have time for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you could, but
if you mean the movie, I can definitely. I think that's a potential monk class all to itself. Someone or a bard who literally like their word is their power. That can get very interesting and creepy. So I would actually go that way to adapt it to like Dune the film. Yeah. My name is a killing word.
Damn right.
I think that makes more sense. Yeah. Break.
Or I would do that as a warlock. And that's your Eldritch Blast.
My whole
just saying your name.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love the secret words. Oh man, when you say like push and everyone gets knocked by your Eldritch Blast, or you're like, you know, get over here. No, I wouldn't do this.
I have been taught the divine language.
Yeah, that's so upsetting to me. I think that's creepy. If everything you say, if it's just your words change the universe. Thoughts on Astral Self drawback of not being able to use a magical weapon at all with this subclass feature? I don't.
That's a good call. That's a good catch. Does the arms ability count as a magical effect? Well, I mean, like when a monk attacks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's a magical effect.
By 6th level, by 6th level, it's magical. But I think the fact that at 3rd level,
it's them saying that you can't use a magical weapon along with the subclass features, and I'm like, well, that's kind of the monk in general, anyway.
Yeah, that's that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think that's a disadvantage. You're getting a lot. I honestly feel like this one's already. If this is the monk you want to play, I am already super happy with all this.
They just want to use a glaive with a monk, so they can get an extra 5 feet on top of the 10. That's all.
Multi-class in a battle master and take lunge. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Well, again, I am offering up tiny glaive. You do still technically get that bonus action to hit them with pole arm master. So yeah. 10, you get that 10-foot reach and that 10-foot reach. Yeah. 20-foot range
from across the universe.
We would kick you out of our table. I'm sorry, or have a very long, protracted conversation. Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for watching Todd Talks. I apologize for all the tiny hands. It was one of the best Todd Talks ever. Thank you again, Jonathan Pruitt and Jim Davis. Watch WebDM, watch their videos, check out their Patreon. They have so much amazing content. Whenever I have a question, I end up watching their videos because I don't want to hound them on Twitter necessarily. So they have done deep dives in all things D&D, and they are deeply entertaining. And you should definitely check out their stuff. So thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
And leave.